Today's topic is one of those great questions that we often ask ourselves and we also ask other homeschoolers. I've gotten this countless times from moms who are just starting to homeschool and just at the beginning of it. They're like, what actually needs to get done? What are we supposed to do each day? And I'm going to give you an answer to this, but I'm also going to draw out that answer from you because you want to be successful. I know you want to be successful in your homeschool. You wouldn't be listening to this episode. You wouldn't be working at it if you didn't want to be successful. But we shouldn't always be just aiming for like the bare minimum. We should really excel. And our goal is to glorify God and to raise our children to love him. And through all of this, that sanctification occurs. And there's just so much. So we shouldn't be looking just for like the minimum of what can we get away with? What do my homeschool state regulations say? I'm going to do just that and nothing more. No, this is a time. These are the years where we get to really pour into relationships with our friends and build up our children, who become our friends. I was saying to my youngest the other day, I was like, yeah, you know what? I've got 3 besties, of course, dad is my most favorite bestie, but I was like, I made 3 really great friends. That's you guys. But anyway, we really want to pour into our children and we just want to give them possibly sometimes things that we didn't get to have in our childhood because most likely you weren't homeschooled. Like I was not homeschooled. And so you have this question of what actually needs to get done. And so we're going to dig into that a little bit. But before we do, I want to remind you that Reimagine Your Homeschool is open for enrollment, but it's actually going to close tomorrow on Friday, January 9th. That'll be your final day to be able to get into this for the 2026 school year. You can have access and watch the videos and the workbook for a very long time. But I actually do recommend that you kind of get to work on this really soon. Even if you already started your homeschool year, you've gotten back, maybe I think a lot of us started back earlier this week, like on Monday. And even if you've already started, it's okay. It's not too late. So you'll have access to it. You just cannot join past tomorrow. So if you want more information, go to littlebylittlehomeschool.com/reimagine. And as always, the link will be in the show notes for you. So let's get into today's topic. What actually do you need to do in order to get your homeschool done every day? Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast. I am Leigh Nguyen, a mom who never intended to homeschool, but all these years later, I could not imagine a better life for my family. My hope is that I may offer you the encouragement that I so desperately needed to begin and to continue through all the years of home education. I am so glad you're listening to this episode, so let's now get into today's topic. Spoiler alert, guess what? You get to decide what actually needs to get done. And if you've been around here for a while, you're like, I knew you were going to say that, Leigh. Yes, but we're going to draw that out a little bit from you, okay? And so I love that we get to talk about this, the fact that you get to decide what actually needs to get done. We're going to talk about this and establishing your foundation of homeschooling in Reimagine Your Homeschool. So don't forget that that closes to be able to get in tomorrow, January 9th. But I love that having that foundation, so that you can decide what needs to get done, what's important to me. And so then you can just go from there. And we'll talk about this at the end of today's episode, add on, because I honestly don't think that we should just be looking at it like, what do we need to do? Okay, we've got those couple of things done and check. And then let's move on to other things. Yes, there's a lot of really important things, and home education and the family is a holistic approach. But there are some things. We need our kids to be able to read. If you listen to Monday's episode, we talked about struggling readers. We need our kids to be able to read and be able to read proficiently. They need to be able to do these things. They need to have that foundation. And with education, the way that our system is kind of built right now, we get to continue to add on to that and to make sure that that foundation is really sturdy. So if you haven't joined Reimagine Your Homeschool, make sure you do so before tomorrow, January 9th. So you have all day tomorrow, January 10th comes. I'm sorry, it's closed. Okay, so let's talk about a great place to start, because I don't want to leave you empty-handed. I don't want to say to you, you get to decide and then just shut down the episode. No, we're not going to do that. A great place to start is to start with the 3 R's. Now, maybe you're a little bit younger and you never heard of this, but the 3 R's, the reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now, yes, writing and arithmetic. They start with a W for writing and an A for arithmetic, but this just goes way back. So the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic. So those really are the place to start. If you're just saying, I'm just starting out with homeschool, or we're just having a rough year, or we just need a bit of a reset. Well, in the meantime, you're going to join Reimagine Homeschool. But if you're just like, I just need right now today, what should I do? Start with that. Reading, writing, arithmetic. So reading maybe is a child just learning how to read, or maybe it is children that know how to read and they are reading on their own. You're reading together, but definitely them reading on their own. They're reading challenging books and they're reading maybe fun books. They're reading all kinds of things. Writing. Now, if you have young children, writing is basically just penmanship, them learning how to write their letters. And then the writing goes from that. You can't go and write a paper or a short story about something. You can't do like a research paper or write a short story if you don't know about how to even write a sentence or how to put sentences together in a paragraph. So we don't look at like, okay, I have a 6-year-old and this is what they need to be, look at what a high schooler is doing. No, we're just doing that foundation, the penmanship. We learn how to write their words, and they learn how to put words together in a sentence, just simple sentences. We begin to make them more complex. So the writing can be for it. Again, this all depends upon age and their abilities. And then arithmetic. So this is something that is just foundational. I mean, obviously you start with just small things, recognizing numbers, and they start to learn how to count and to categorize things and put things into, let's make a pile of 5 balls. Let's make a pile of 3 straws. And I just remember all like the fun manipulatives and all that kind of stuff. I was actually digging around. We were having some guests over and they have young kids. And I think that we have tended to have a lot of families over that have boys. And so I pulled out one of probably 3 or 4 bins of Matchbox cars. And I just had that in my basement. There's a sheet thrown over it so dust doesn't get into it. And I just bring that up from the basement and put it in the living room. And we apparently have had lots of boys come over to visit. And I realized we were having a girl. And I was like, oh, let's find something. So I was digging through our attic crawl space and I was looking for like one specific thing that I knew would be easy to be able to pull out and the little girl would enjoy playing with it from my daughter. And I found some of the manipulatives and I was like, oh, it was like the little bears, little plastic, like hard plastic bears, and they're different colors. And I was like, oh, I remember using these. It was fun. It really was fun. It's not as fun when they get older and they just have like a really bad attitude about learning geometry or algebra, but maybe some kids don't. Mine tended to. But arithmetic is obviously going to be based upon the age of the children. And it's also a progression. They're not going to be able to figure out the area of a square if they don't know how to add and to subtract and multiply and divide. So it is a progression and you're just building upon it from their younger age and you just continue going on up. So great place to start is the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic. So what needs to get done in a day all right, well, here's a question. I'm starting to read my next notes. This is the question that you should ask yourself. What needs to get done in a day to feel like I accomplished a good homeschool day? Write that question down. What needs to get done in a day to feel like I accomplished a good homeschool day? What's going to make you feel like you had a good day? And this is going to change. You need to recognize that there are sometimes seasons of craziness. We have a baby. Things are going to be a little bit thrown off. And it might be that the things are a little thrown off for 2 years or so. And that's okay. That's recognizing that is a season. And you can sometimes feel like 2 years, that's a really long time. And yeah, comparatively to 2 weeks, that's a long time, but it is just a season. And so recognize that there are seasons that are sometimes things are going to be crazy. Maybe you have a health issue or something, and things are going to, or you're needing to help with parents that are getting older. And there's just as a season that is a little bit crazy. But then there should be seasons of normal as well. And I really pray and I hope that there are seasons of normal and that seasons of normal are more common for you. But we have to adjust as needed for the season. You might start off this now, January, kicking off the rest of this homeschool year and everything feels good and normal. And then something comes up, or maybe you're expecting to have a baby here in a couple of months, or you know that there's a big trip coming up, or your family does a bit of traveling, or you go traveling, dad travels for work and you all get to go with him. And so you know that that's coming up in say April or something like that. And so recognizing this is a time of normal and just do what you can. Just hit things hard as you can. Like just, I remember just knowing that, especially in the winter, I'm like, okay, we're a little bit more snowed in and we're just a little more sedentary and a little more at home. And so I was like, this is when we are going to accomplish a lot of our homeschool is during the winter months. Because come the spring, when it's nice out, it's really hard to say no. And they're like, can I go out and climb a tree? And you're like, it's so hard to say no. And so you're always going to be glad when those seasons of normal happen and you really get what actually needs to be done every single day. And you're going to feel like when that season of maybe craziness comes, like it's okay to let a little bit go. But we're hoping for more normal seasons of life, but also recognizing that you have to adjust every year. Your kid's going to be older. You are going to be maybe more laid back about homeschool. You're going to be wiser, or you might get a little more excited about homeschool and want to do more. But just recognizing that things need to be adjusted every year. Sometimes the adjustment is just very slight. And we might even need to adjust right now for this homeschool year. We've talked about that in the past couple of episodes. We talked about how do we restart this homeschool year and get it going, and recognizing, like, going back and looking, like, what wasn't working in the fall, and you recognize it wasn't working, and it was like banging your head on the wall, and you're like, this is terrible. Nobody is enjoying this. Well, then put that aside. Go back and listen to that episode a couple back. I think it was right around or right before Christmas about how to restart the homeschool year. But recognize that there are seasons of craziness and seasons of normal. Adjust as needed and adjust every year. However, we should not stay living in a crazy season. Sometimes the crazy season is out of our hands and out of our control. Let's just go back to saying maybe there is a parent or a grandparent that you have to put a lot of time in taking care of them. And so that is out of your control. Maybe there are some ways that you can lessen the amount of time that's involved for you. Maybe there's siblings and other people that can get involved and take a little bit of the load off for you. But don't stay living in a crazy season if you can help it at all. And then don't use that, oh, I'm just in a crazy season, as an excuse to do the minimal amount of work. Don't justify if you're finding that you're being lazy about it. I'm sorry if that hurts, but there are some times that we are just being lazy about homeschool. And sometimes certain personalities kind of tend towards that anyway. And so it's recognizing, like, okay, I tend to be lazy about homeschool. And so it's saying, okay, what do I need to do to not be lazy and to just put in the work and to do the thing? So don't justify that this is just a crazy season and maybe it's not as crazy as you think it is. Maybe as the season goes along, your stamina and your ability to add and to actually put in the time and effort has actually increased, but you might not allow it. You might not recognize it. So I want to encourage you to recognize that and don't justify it's a crazy season just to get away with the bare minimum and start to see that the gains and everything that your kids have made are starting to slide. But don't also, on the flip side of that, don't say to yourself, well, today can't be perfect, so therefore it isn't worth putting in the effort. And so let me just give you an example of just this morning. And so I have my homeschooler who is a senior right now, and we just kind of were running a little bit late. I was going to head into the bathroom and get ready, and my other kiddo jumped in, and he was in there for a little while, and I knew that he had a busy day, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to push for him to finish any bit earlier. So I was a little bit late in getting started, and then there was just some conversations that needed to be had and just some figuring out of logistics with the family. And then I realized, oh, I have to put this chicken in the crock pot. It was slightly still a little bit frozen. I was like, it really needs more time than it would. I could normally do it when we were done with morning time. But I was like, it really needs to get done. So we did some. And then I was like, you know what? I have got to get this chicken in the crock pot. And so he went and found something else to do for a little bit. And I went and did that. And, I could think to myself, okay, I got to put this chicken in the crock pot. Just go do your independent stuff. Why are we even bothering to try? But no, I said, just give me about 7 minutes and I will come back and we will get started on this. I don't care if you do some of your independent stuff, you want to do something else, you want to go outside, you want to roll around, I don't know, you want to do something with a hobby, I don't really care. And then let's come back and reconvene. And so it's saying to yourself, like, okay, this was not a perfect morning. And there's a lot of not perfect mornings. I would say most homeschool mornings are not perfect, but we decide to do it anyway. And we do what actually needs to get done. Again, what needs to get done? You get to decide. And if you're really stumped about that, go over and get into Reimagine Your Homeschool. But remember the best place to start is your reading, your writing, and your arithmetic. So don't just say to yourself, well, it can't be perfect, then we might as well just scratch the day. Or, well, Monday wasn't perfect, so therefore Tuesday isn't going to be either. Or we had a really great Monday and Tuesday, so it's okay if we just kind of let Wednesday, Thursday, Friday go and not really get done what we were hoping to get done. You have goals, you have ideas, you have things that you want to accomplish with your kids, and they only get done by actually doing those. By actually putting in the work day in and day out, little by little. So don't stay, though, at the minimum. So I say, what actually needs to get done in your homeschool? And I'll say, okay, let's figure out what is the minimum. Great place to start, those 3 R's. But don't stay at that minimum. Get really good at it. Like you're good at it. Your kids are good at it. And you've figured out the curriculum, and you should by now. I mean, it's January. You should have your curriculum figured out by now and know how to use it well. And so it's just is doing it day in and day out. And so that minimum isn't necessarily something we say to our kids, well, we only have to do this. It's just as an understanding. This is homeschool. And then get really good at that basis, that foundation. And then go ahead and add something else in. Maybe it's something just adding in a read aloud that you guys do together. Or maybe it's adding in once or twice a week, you guys watch a nature documentary. Or it's adding in hikes. Or it's adding in listening to maybe some audiobooks. You get to decide, what is that adding in? Add one thing in. Get really good at that. Add something else in. Get really good at adding that. I'm not a proponent of making it too much, but when we focus on like, what are the basics? What do I have to do? And this is what school promotes. What is the bare minimum you need to do and to be able to get done and be able to graduate and go on to college or whatever it is you need to. And just having that attitude, like, no, we get to educate together. We get to learn together. We get to grow in our faith together. We get to grow as a family together. So get good at that, what actually needs to get done, and then slowly add on to it. Now, I know on top of that, there are chores that have to get done. There's running around and there's errands and there's activities to get to and stuff. But more so right now, figure out what's important to you, what's important to get done. And so when you're like, okay, well, I got the 3 R's, we're doing really good. How about you add in Bible time together? If you have older kids, how about you add in apologetics or theology? Really get into those things. And I'm thoroughly enjoying my homeschool year. I'm enjoying the theology and the apologetics. I'm going to tell you right now, this morning we were reading through something and I didn't understand, and he perfectly explained it to me. I was like, man, you're a smart kid. And I hope that you have those moments too with your kids who are like, wow, okay, I am definitely not smarter than a homeschooler. All right, friend, I am going to close down this episode, but just want to give you one final reminder of Reimagine Your Homeschool. Enrollment closes tomorrow, Friday, January 9th, 2026. You can go to littlebylittlehomeschool.com/reimagine. Get that foundation, find out what you need to do, set up those goals, all with the foundation of understanding your family culture, your vision, and then being able to create those goals, and then how to also figure out the layout of your day so that you can accomplish what actually needs to get done and then add in some other stuff too. All right, I will see you over at Reimagine Your Homeschool and back here on the podcast after the weekend.